Australia has one of the largest and most difficult maritime border environments in the world. Australia's border includes approximately 37,000 kilometres of coastline covering more than 58 million square kilometres of ocean. This is over 10% of the Earth's surface, most of which is truly remote. Being an island nation, we are heavily reliant on maintaining open sea lanes for our trade. Around $130 billion of tradable goods are transported through the Strait of Malacca to and from Australia each year. And in the absence of a traditional Coast Guard structure, Australia protects its maritime security through a Maritime Border Command, or MBC. Commodore Rao was speaking about the need for a nodal agency in India, and this is the nodal agency that Australia has implemented for maritime security. It acts as the primary government law enforcement organisation in the maritime domain, using assets assigned from the Department of Immigration and Border Protection and the Department of Defence, primarily the Navy. The Australian Maritime Domain, or AMD, includes the offshore areas within Australia's Exclusive Economic Zone, EEZ, but extends to the area bounded by the Australian Security Forces Authority area. It's the orange line in this illustration, which extends much beyond our EEZ. So in this illustration, the blue area is the 24 nautical mile contiguous zone where customs and immigration laws come into effect. The green area is the EEZ, and the pink areas are our continental shelf extension to the seabed and subsoil resources as allowed by the UN. So Maritime Border Command has responsibility for 8 maritime threats: illegal exploitation of natural resources, illegal activity in protected areas, maritime terrorism, piracy, robbery, violence at sea, prohibited imports and exports, and compromise to biosecurity and marine pollution. But I'd like to provide a particular perspective on the last threat, which is irregular maritime arrivals. For the purpose of this discussion, we could define irregular maritime arrivals as people attempting to travel to Australia by boat without a valid visa. The irregular movement of people, asylum seekers and economic migrants, often in the same venture, so-called mixed migration, is a complex issue that poses huge challenges for source, transit, and destination countries. Any country has the duty and the responsibility to protect its borders. This is a fundamental concept of sovereignty. But mixed migration also poses challenges for states because of the nexus with criminality. Interpol has claimed that the flow of migrants across borders is increasingly controlled by criminal networks. Now, to provide some background, between 2008 and 2013, Australia faced a dramatic increase in the number of people attempting to make the dangerous journey to Australia by boat. Networks of people smugglers were taking advantage of vulnerable people using boats that were ill-suited for the long journey to Australia. From South India, for example, to Australia, the journey is at least 6,000 kilometres. And in 2013 alone, over 300 boats carrying 20,000 people tried to reach Australia in this way. So, in 2013, the Australian government introduced a new policy to combat this threat. The intention was to send a clear message that people smugglers cannot offer a pathway to Australia. In practice, this has meant that if people do try to reach Australia by boat unlawfully, they will either be safely removed from Australian waters and in some cases turned back where it is safe to do so, including in lifeboats provided for this purpose, or transferred to another country in our region where they will have their protection claims assessed by that country. Look, as controversial as this policy may be, it has been very effective in saving lives at sea by stopping migrants from getting on boats in the first place. For example, there have been no known deaths at sea since its implementation in December 2013, compared to the 1,200 people that we know died at sea between 2008 and 2013. And there was only one successful maritime venture in 2014, and its passengers were transferred to regional processing centres. So interestingly enough, that venture was launched from Pondicherry with 157, mostly Sri Lankan Tamil asylum seekers and was intercepted off the Australian territory of Christmas Island in June 2014. And so the Australian government welcomes the discussion about how countries in our region can cooperate and share experiences to manage irregular threats to our security and sovereignty at sea. Thank you very much for hearing out my short presentation. I hope that we can have a good discussion a bit later, share some more experiences about how we have structured our own Maritime Border Command. Thank you very much.